Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. I am not alone today. I have brought with me to discuss this, the one, the only, Mr. D freaking Free. Man, why don't you say hello? It has been quite a while.
Yes, it has been. Thanks for having me on. It's been a bit, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so guys, you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. We're gonna be talking about, more so laughing about it, really.
Yeah,
one of the
expect a
things
lot of
that
gags, by the way, guys. Just gonna put that out there.
so one of the things, you and I cover this. We don't cover this actually on our channels, but there's a lot of people who do when it comes to Broly and Dragon Ball in general about power scaling. You know, these people who want to break down and figure out just how much power Goku or Vegeta, Broly, or anyone else is using at any given point, and really try to work it out mathematically with intelligence. And I completely understand that. To me, it's a little fun exercise, and it takes a lot of brain power in order to justify what is essentially just nonsense. Dragon Ball's fights are nonsense. There's no real rhyme or reason as to who's stronger than who or how much someone is holding back in any given fight. Dragon Ball Super is probably the worst out of all the other series in the entire saga of Dragon Ball. But this movie, I think, is going to really piss off some of the more prominent power scalers and even some of the ones who want to be, because from the trailer, it really looks like Toriyama has decided to continue using this stupid little trope that he used throughout all of Dragon Ball Super, where Goku and Vegeta are just so incredibly strong at this point that the only people who can actually go up against them and not make it seem really weird that how are these god level characters just kind of sitting around, even if it's a multiverse, like how are they just sitting around and not fighting anyone or just ruling their entire universe? So he works around that by introducing characters who literally learn to fight and power up on the fly in order to fight Goku and Vegeta. And through a majority of the trailer, it looks like Goku and Vegeta get their asses handed to them fighting a base Broly. D-Free, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's going to really outrage like a bunch of people in this community and make his prominence a little less so?
I think it will, because it's a different idea, right? That we were introduced to this character once before, and I think that in and of itself is already going to be a hard pill for people to swallow. We've seen this guy before, and there's no way in hell that he should be this strong first. Even if it's a different version of this character, there is no relation to what we've seen before. You're going to literally introduce a character that is brand new in his base form, and he is able to fight, again, in his freaking base. And he's able to fight these guys in their transform states. That is really ridiculously hard to believe. And I, again, would have an easier time understanding it if he was like a different species or something, but he's literally the same species as them. He's a Saiyan as well. So I think that there's going to be a faction of people that'll say, okay, well, it makes sense because really all that the transformations are a multiplier of your base power. So naturally, all that really means is Broly's base is just significantly stronger than theirs. That's just all that really means. Like, it means he's probably hundreds of times stronger than their base in his own base. And that in and of itself is really, really hard to comprehend. But
how do they never sense him? I don't understand it. Okay, like
maybe he learned suppression. Remember when Frieza learned suppression? Okay,
maybe he's
it was
being mind
Frieza.
controlled.
No, it wasn't Frieza. It was Vegeta. It was Vegeta, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, these Earthlings, they can suppress their power, yada yada." Yeah, maybe it's the mind control that keeps him docile and things like that. But it's just, it's so outlandish to think. And then ultimately, at his best, he's going to be in some variation of Super Saiyan. And it's incredibly hard to understand why, no matter if it's Legendary Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan Berserk, as they honestly might wind up calling it, just because we have a character that actually has Super Saiyan Berserk now in the main continuity in Kale. Even though they didn't call it that in the show, just like Raids, that's some of the things that comes from Heroes, but still, I digress. Some variation of basically Super Saiyan, which those two characters, by the way, like Kale and Caulifla, are a whole other end of this. Like, you were not lying when you said Dragon Ball Super is really bad at this. Those two characters are a great example as far as like how bad they will be in terms of probably scaling off Broly, because honestly at that point I had already given up on trying to understand power scaling in Dragon Ball just because it didn't make any sense, especially in the Tournament of Power. But anyways, back to what I was saying. When we get back to talking about Broly, he's going to be in some variation of Super Saiyan, and it's going to be really hard to understand why his Super Saiyan, again, is able to fight on the level of godly powers. You know, godly ki, it's going to be weird. But it's also at the same time not going to be the first time that's happened because it happened in the Tournament of Power. Now, Kel and Khalifa got their butts kicked, but ultimately they still put up respectable fights, and they're going to be nowhere near as strong as Broly. So,
can I just there's one thing I want to ask you that I was thinking about while you were talking, just kind of working it out in my head. And Dragon Ball's been known to do this, but at the same time, I just want to kind of butt in and say, I think Broly's power level, even if it's so high that like him transforming into just a base Super Saiyan or whatever multiplier Berserk or Legendary gives you, that's fine. The problem there for a lot of people is that we have Broly fighting in his base form. So that base form is huge. Dragon Ball Super has, and it's not ever consistent. It makes no sense. Everything is dictated by like what has to happen instead of what makes sense. But there's that one scene in Dragon Ball Super where they're readapting the whole Fakatsu no F storyline, and you have Frieza be brought back in his first form, you know, that 530,000 power level form. And Goku's like, Nani? Like, it's just like he notices it on Beerus' planet. And one of the things they did in that one too is Frieza comes in, he rebuilds his entire force. You know, he has more power than he's ever had or whatever it is. But those people can't even stand up to Krillin or anything. So even if Broly's base form is brought down to a significant level, how have they never sensed this guy before if he's just out there somewhere in the universe? I mean, this guy has to have had some outbreak before. And no, that didn't make sense back in the movie days, and it won't make sense now. Like, how has this guy been able to completely go under the radar this entire time, especially when they've gone universe hopping now? So, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not going to...
And also, like, on the side, on the same part of that is, like, how does an omnipotent being like Whis not know about this guy?
Maybe he does. Whis knows about everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. There's no way that Whis didn't know Broly exists, basically. There's no way.
But you know what's funny? You know what's funny, though? Because, like, I don't know if they adapted this to the show itself, but you remember in the movie, I definitely remember he's like, are there any Saiyans left? He's like, yeah, there's like a handful on Earth, and that's it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I think that was the movie, yeah. He's like, yeah, like, it's these guys and then, like, their kids.
Yeah, it's like, there's nobody left. Like, so Whis doesn't know about anything, really. He's just kind of going off the cuff, and he's not really paying attention to everything. That's the problem with Universe 7 and why they have such a low mortal level. But the real question here, Dragon Ball has been known to do this. We've seen this happen a lot in the past when they do these big promotional advertisements, even for the movies. Is it possible that we're seeing Broly fight in his base form because they're trying not to give anything away, and in fact he probably has another form, or that's supposed to be something else? You know, we get to see that big transformation coming out of the hole in the ground thing for Broly at the end of the trailer, but that doesn't mean that that's his only Super Saiyan form. They could be tricking us with this, making it look like he's fighting in his base form when he's really having like some
I think that his equivalent to Berserk or Legendary, whatever they're gonna call it, I don't think they're gonna call it Legendary Super Saiyan again. I don't. Honestly, I'd be surprised if they even named it, by the way, outside of, like, you know, the toys and stuff like that. But I think whatever that is, that form, because it's Broly, we'll call it Legendary Super Saiyan anyway right now for the purpose of the video. I think that's his ultimate form, like his final form as well, just because the memorabilia, the merchandise, they're basically making this character the same character, visually anyway. You know, minor scars, different clothing, but all the toys show him in that form too. So I think that's where he's going to ultimately end up, which is why I'm saying that, you know, it's a hard pill to swallow that these characters can reach this level of power and still struggle against somebody that should be beneath them by all intents and purposes. But again, maybe it's just that Berserk / Legendary power up that these couple of characters can get that puts them on such an immense level of power. You know, I think
it made sense with Hit. It made sense with Hit, and it's just kind of gone downhill since.
No. See, I understand it when it's not a Saiyan. When it's a Saiyan, it just kind of feels like an ass pull. When it's anybody else, it feels like less of an asshole. Like Hit, I understand. His pure progress, all that, I understand, but it still feels like an asshole. But it's not as bad. It's easier to understand it, you know? But it's just like, comparatively, you know. And the thing about Dragon Ball is too, like, one character's version of a form is not exactly equal to another character's version of a form, and that is literally epitomized when you see Broly able to. And again, we don't know the extent to which how much he'd actually pressure these characters while still in base or just natural Super Saiyan before he breaks into his legendary form or anything like that. But still, you know that there's some ties here where it's like, you know, my version of Super Saiyan isn't necessarily just innately as strong as this other character's just because it's the same level of transformation. You know, and that's always been a thing, even for these characters themselves, just because of the fact that they can train their Super Saiyans and master these forms and just get stronger than they were in previous sagas. So, like I said, I'm going to continue to harp on the fact that I think that it's going to be weird, but I don't think it's going to be horrible. I don't think it's going to be like super bad or incredibly hard to understand. I think that we'll get to a point where we just accept it, because we've seen several characters kind of put these characters in a pressured situation, you know, despite the fact, and this is something that a lot of people have always kind of been upset about, like, how are these guys at godly levels, you know? And then of course now with their new forms post Tournament of Power, I don't really think they're going to access those forms too much, if at all, in the movie, by the way, but it just gets worse and worse. And that, again, is something we're accustomed to, because it's not just them, it's not just Broly, it's not just, again, like Kale and Caulifla, it's every character. It's Beerus. It's everybody.
Krillin.
Yeah.
It's Krillin. It's everybody.
Even for that extent. Like, how was Krillin, I don't care how suppressed Goku was, how was Krillin fighting, you know? Like, it just, they do this all the time. Like, if he's going to be in blue, he's blue. Like, there's got to be some level of base power, like, that he can't dip below while transformed. Like, seriously.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because they did, and I'm not a power scaler here. I mean, you're gonna have to go to so many other people to get this.
Yeah, but me either. I'm somebody that just looks at the material and like, yep.
Yeah, like it's a way to thinking. It is a legitimate way of thinking. Like, how it's possible if you transform, but then you can just kind of bring your entire power level down to 0. Why does that help you? It just drains your stamina.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, you go all the way back. You go all the way back to the whole Cell Games thing, and they mastered Super Saiyan, and that makes sense for Super Saiyan because they mastered it. So did they master Blue? Because a lot of things point to no.
Yeah.
Because they don't overuse it. I mean, if they mastered it in such a way, you'd imagine they would just kind of leave it on throughout that entire tournament, but they didn't. And it wasn't like they were fighting for too long.
No, they even said that they can't stay in that too long at certain points. Like, you know, they were like, yeah, that's why they kept going back to normal. They we need to preserve our stamina. If that was Super Saiyan, mastered levels of Super Saiyan, like regular Super Saiyan, we saw Goku and Gohan stay in the form just indefinitely.
So,
you know,
the one question I have to ask, because I think that a lot of people are going to be debating this over the next couple months. So we see that Broly is able to, at least from what we look at from the trailer, take on Goku and Vegeta, especially Goku in his blue form while he's still in his base. And then he transforms into the Super Saiyan Legend or Berserk form or whatever. Do you think that Broly in this movie is going to bring out UI Goku? Or do you think that that was only a Super thing?
You know what I would love? I think Goku's going to get UI again. I don't remember exactly what he said at the end of Super, but I do know that this is basically a continuation after Super. It's main continuity stuff, so he does have UI. I don't know if he can access it, or if they're going to do the thing where he only gets to it whenever he's severely, you know, just pushed to his limits and is about to just go down, and he all of a sudden taps into it. And then at that point, I don't know if it would be the Ultra Instinct sign or just like literally the mastered version of it. I don't know. I see, that's where those little things are kind of weird, because also Vegeta in that same essence with the Super Saiyan Blue evolution, where it's like, well, will he actually like get to this? Does he need to get pushed harder? But Goku even more so, because there's 2 different levels of power he has to kind of get to. So where it's like just the natural Ultra Instinct, then the mastered version with the white hair and all that. Well, Ultra Instinct sign, and then Ultra Instinct is what like Dokkan calls it, for example. They just call the white-haired one Ultra Instinct, but I don't think he's gonna bring it out. I really don't. Even though I know that he has access to it at some point, I don't think they're gonna use it again. I briefly remember something over the course of like since Super ended where they said they're not really gonna be using those forms anymore. Like maybe it was in the last episode or some sort of media that came out otherwise, which is why a lot of people also, on a side note, speculating maybe Gogeta comes in or just. But you know what I would like to see, in all seriousness, is I just would really, really like to see Goku stop using Kaioken Blue, which we know he's probably going to use it. because it just seems like that just is like a horrible form to me. Like, what's the point of using this form anymore? Goku, stop. Remember the key onset issues he had when he first used that? Whatever happened to that?
But they never do it again.
They never do it again. All of a sudden, he was like, what? Kaioken times 10? What was this guy getting to in the Tournament of Power? Did he go to like times 100? At what point?
No, he got to 10. He just went to 10. And then
repeatedly at 10, yeah.
The speculation was that every time he was using it, he was Kaioken, not Kaioken times anything, which I guess makes sense, but still, like, you would imagine there would be some offset to that, but he used it so many times.
Nah, that Goku at just this is power scaling. That Goku at just regular Kaioken Blue, no modifier on it, no times or anything, is still significantly stronger than the times 10 one from the previous, you know? So, like, come on now, stop it. Anyways, I think that what would be really cool, though, on a side note, would be, like, if he were to get evolution. Like, I would actually really like that. I would really, really like that if that's how they ended it, with Goku getting that and then them both fighting. But there are going to be people, and you might be one as well, that kind of just want that state of Vegeta. And I wouldn't disagree with that. But I would just kind of like for them to have actual progression forms as opposed to Goku just having some random new thing. Kind of like Gohan did, actually. Which I don't really mind it, but yeah.
I like progressive forms. I wouldn't mind if he got it, but I would really like it just to state of Vegeta. Really, a lot of people are going to be mad about this. I think Goku's going to take out Broly in like the most mundane way. The only like, he's going to be like a punch to the stomach or something.
Oh, they're going to do the movie one thing. Just do it all over again. Give Goku your energy and just, oh my God.
I tell you this. It's not that I want that to happen. It just seems kind of plausible to me. But one of the things I would really like for them to do, because this is actually canon, and there's an idea that maybe Toriyama is pulling from more than just the Broly movies. In fact, I would really like him to. Motivations and cool techniques. The Dragon Fist, or whatever they call it, from movie 13 would be awesome. I think that would be a great way where he just kind of makes up this new form, and it kind of goes all the way back to him picking a fight and beating Piccolo Daimao. You just completely wreck Broly with his power with one final punch moment. It doesn't have to be a punch in the stomach or anything else like that. It's just, this is how Goku brings him down. It's a real heroic moment. It's a brand new technique instead of brand new transformation.
I would love for him to have a new finishing move like Dragon Fist. And the only other time we see him do it, I think, is in GT, but that's about it.
Yeah. So that's what I would do. Because bringing back UI to me doesn't seem like a plausible solution, because I feel like that more than anything, more than Super Saiyan Blue Evolved or anything else like that, should be a very special form. And even though Broly is going to be a formidable opponent, I don't imagine they're going to be fighting for all that long. I think it's going to be a really quick fight, like all Dragon Ball fights are. The Tournament of Power was really special because it was an extended fight, even though it doesn't feel like it. You know, it feels like, oh, you know, these people fight for hours at a time. Oh no, they're only fighting for like 10 minutes. So like,
yeah, they really didn't fight for too long.
Yeah, so I think no UI, no fusion, no anything else like that. There's so many other things that they have to focus on. It would be so easy if we just have a bit of dialogue at the very beginning of the movie with Goku being like, yeah, I've been like working on something new. And then he like, I've been working on something new, trying to bring out that Ultra Instinct power or something. And then he just brings out a new finishing move, and that's how he takes out Broly. And then we can all just sit around and be like, how is Broly so strong? And how is that move so strong? What is the power scaling of that move or something? But that's the way I would do it. But I think regardless, Broly's power level is going to make a lot of people mad. I guess there is some indication that they might be tricking us the same way they did it with Battle of Gods, and they showed Gohan going his Super Saiyan form instead of the Ultra Instinct, or not Ultra Instinct, Ultimate form in the previews of the movie, which confused a lot of people. They fixed. So maybe that's part of this. I'm not sure. But really, the Dragon Ball community, at least in my opinion, already takes the power scaling super seriously, and this is not going to help matters, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Anyway, guys, I hope y'all have enjoyed the video. Share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Please make sure to go down to the description section below and hit that link to go subscribe to D Free. The guy makes some awesome content. Plus, he also has a couple other channels that you can check out as well. Links in the description section below. You can find the links to his other channels on his other channel in the suggested column. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. It's been real.
It's been real.